So how can we combine our passion for video games with doing something that can make us an income, something like logistics and supply chain? Hey guys, thank you so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel and I'm joined by a very special guest today, Hannah Gambe. And Hannah Gambe is a logistics specialist, is an advisor, is a consultant, and an educator. So Hannah, thank you so much and welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Daniel. Thanks for having me today. And that interactive question on the gaming world combining with logistics, there's so much to talk about, and I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you for being here. And Hannah, so you have this experience in logistics and supply chain, and I think for some of those in the audience that may know that I also have logistics and supply chain background, so I know we're going to get along great, and we're going to have a lot to talk about here. And as far as being a gamer, I think I heard earlier too that you are also a gaming family, right? So tell us a little bit about your gaming experience too.
Yes, well, I consider my gaming career, my resume, starting back in the day with Mario Kart, Nintendo 64. Those controllers, like one time I got a clear purple one. Game
Yep.
changer for Christmas. Game changer. And you'll never be able to take away the memories of after Christmas gaming with new games and Mario Kart and Nintendo 64. That is my foundation. My current gaming scenario is we have a house full of electronics, computers, PS5s, VR, Switches, all of the things. And so as a family, we've mainly been on the Fortnite train, and it's more interactive for the adults and kids combined. They've done a really good job of being able to make the adults engaged with some of the features they have while getting competitive with your kiddos and playing online and talking crap. My husband and my son, they just love it. They call it murking, and they just
Nice.
murk. And so that's my background. We love it as a family on a rainy day or a sunny day. When it's hot,
Exactly.
there's always gaming weather outside.
That's right. Yeah, all weather is gaming weather for sure.
Yes.
So that's great. So we love so I love the passion for video games, and I know we share that passion for gaming as well. So when it comes to trying to earn a living, right? So we wish that we could all just play games and that would be income, but doesn't always work out. And there's many of us that can't do, whether it's the streaming thing or being an influencer. And sometimes it's like, well, we gotta pay the bills. We gotta put food on the table, and understanding how we can, earn this living. And you're doing something fantastic with educating for those doing looking to get into a career path, especially around logistics and supply chain. So I guess walk us through just kind of like an introduction to that. How did you get into that, and how are we doing that now?
Great question. And I want to say the worlds collide. We are in a influencer world right now, and it might seem like maybe that was your goal, that you're more than just a gamer. You have talent behind these games, and I do believe that there are a lot of people out there that have above and beyond talent. I'm very familiar with, gaming competitions and people making real money from gaming. And obviously, that would definitely be the dream. If I could have made that career, that would have been awesome. I'm sure everyone has that dream. So,
For
with
sure.
that being said, um, this industry chose me. The industry I was picking was, educational. I was going to be completely happy with $35,000 a year as a teacher, middle school, high school teacher, and everything just shifted on me when my senior year happened. My dad came to me and opened up two logistics businesses. And what I realized is I've always had a tech niche expertise, I guess we could say. I guess if I'm gonna
Yeah.
toot my own horn here. So I technology has always been like a puzzle, right? And so my dad threw me in a position where I sank or swim. We absolutely sank. We sank to the bottom and drowned with no life. preservation or whatever.
No life
Um,
preserver allowed, right?
yeah, no, we did not have a lifeguard or any kind of life-saving devices. So we failed miserably. And it was the experience that broke me, but I said, I'm not going to stop. Like his businesses went very much into debt. We did not know what we were doing, but he needed someone with the technology background of navigating the computers, and logistics is transportation. Okay. So I'm behind the computer navigating everything and in between of pickup, delivery for the driver, for the customer. That, like, let's say we're picking up a truckload full of Nintendo 64s that are all palletized, and that, like, every single gaming piece, this headset, this everything in your office was put on a truck at one point. And so that's where it became fascinating for me to, like, bring the worlds together and say, you know what, this is all one big puzzle. And it's the logic behind it. What is gaming involved with? Logic. You have to have logic and strategy. That is my favorite thing. Logic and strategy gets married, and there's logistics as a baby. Like, it's just something that I've been passionate about because it actually was something I was good at, and it was able to help people I was able to help people duplicate what I was doing. That's what I was trying to say, is that's
Gotcha.
when I started in, while we were miserably failing in this business. I got on an online community and I said, you guys, you got to come watch this. So I got on Zoom, and I was dispatching from scratch, not knowing at all what I was doing. And it was the most fascinating thing for people to watch, is the struggle, the reality, the real, yeah, like, oh, she did this, I don't need to do that. So I was the willing to be on the chopping block for a lot of testing strategies over the years. This was years ago, years
Yeah.
and years ago. And so that's where I took my educational degree and I said, you know what? Adults are my people, because the 4 years I was in college at Oklahoma State University, I did not know what age and what subject. All 4 years, I was at my senior year not knowing what I was going to go teach. And it was for a reason. It had to have been for a reason, because I realized adults are my people. They're serious. They're in need of an income. This isn't your grandmother's Tupperware business. I'm not making a $99 fee off of your sign up. Like, it's a legitimate thing, and it's something that my husband and I have both built careers off of, and we have seen five-figure monthly paychecks with our own two eyes. And I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to go backwards. I'm going to always keep fighting for that paycheck. And it's a lucrative industry, but it is very secure because everything is always going to need transportation.
That's fantastic. Wow. Very powerful stuff. Because as far as like the logistics side of it, right? And you mentioned one thing I think was really interesting is that marriage of logic, right? And another word I think for logic for the gamers, and what I've maybe said on the show for before, that those I've heard, is that it's really around problem solving, right? What you're talking about as far as like being being in the trenches, if you will, and struggling to do the dispatch to get everything worked out correctly, is really just a form of problem solving. And I love that you said that you liked it, you were good at it. And it's interesting because as gamers, we're good at problem solving.
Hmm.
So that could have been part of where it came from, to say like, well, you when you're playing games, you have this kind of, your mind is like working, at that high level to solve the challenges, the problems, and overcome. And then you can take that same skill set, right? Instead of just pushing, left, right, A, B, X, Y, it's like, well, now I can, dispatch the trucks. Like, this is where this needs to go. This is where this needs to go. Especially if you do anything puzzle games, anything like
I was
sim
saying board
like game.
games, Uno, just
There you go.
everything has a strategy.
Everything has strategy. Absolutely. And so just being able to take that skill set and apply it to something like logistics and like in the workplace, right? And building a business is just so cool, so fantastic. And just so I got to give you props for that first off.
Thank you. It was a very strange journey getting here.
Awesome. So for those, I guess, that are, starting to get interested and maybe start to see this kind of pattern and say like, okay, well, I like to play games and how can I pull that out of the game? Right. And how can I like how did you get started, I guess? Like I think for you it might have was it just kind of jump in, like go to the deep end and potentially sink as the case may have been?
That's literally what happened. So, I was not currently a gamer at the time. I was, more of a Friday night family board game kind of gal, always on my computer. I wish I was playing games instead of working. But it was where I collided the worlds. It was always that inclination of like, okay, I know this sounds really funny and ridiculous, but my grandmother would always call me, and I'm sure this happens to tons of people for technology things. She literally texted me yesterday, I will pay you to come fix and unjam my printer. And I'm like, okay, Granley, we don't need to do that. I will come and unjam your printer, but I have always been like the go-to logic kind of like, okay, well, if this isn't working out, this has to work out. And I have to thank the amazing entrepreneurs in my life growing up. My dad being one of them, my stepdad being another one, my grandfather, both my grandfathers, millionaire entrepreneurs. And I have to give a lot of credit to the grit that I have seen growing up. And it really is, it starts with a vision of getting an understanding of what you're doing. And that's like getting the objective of a game. Like if you sit down and and you have a brand new game, you've heard of this cool game before that your friend recommended, you've seen some video clips of it on YouTube, but now it's time for you to execute and put that into play and figure this game out yourself. That's what you're doing. And so that's my dad gave me the plug and play. He paid for the overhead of the software platforms that we needed. I made phone calls. I asked questions. I looked like an idiot and I was willing to be okay with that. I had extremely uncomfortable conversations and experiences along the way, but it was all a learning experience. So what I essentially do is I've served my time as a dispatcher and a broker. And what I want to do and what I have done over the years is created something that is duplicatable to where if your friend is really good at this game like Halo, but you're brand new at Halo, you are going to want to help him like with some cool tricks like try this, try that, or maybe, like there's some struggle when you're first starting out, right? Like you didn't wake up and you're as a nobody that's seen Halo at all before, and then you're just a master, whatever they call them. So
Right. What you're
I
talking about is that kind of like there's like a skill gap or skill
building
disparity, right?
the building and that's where the grit came in, like the nasty part, like okay, let's get our hands dirty and let's sit and play in the mud for a second. It's very expensive to do that, and it has to have an investment involved, and not very expensive investment, but like that Simon Sinek, he's a great educational thought leader. He says, find someone that will sit in the mud with you. And, that's what we do is I just sit in the mud with you and I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. We can go this direction, this direction, this direction, this direction with your customization background, with what you're dealing with. We will plug and play and make this a custom gaming experience for you, you know?
That's
That's
awesome.
so,
And it's that level
yeah.
of customization, right? It's no two journeys are the same, right?
Like my background in gaming versus your background in gaming is completely different. But
Yeah.
if we got a third party in here to teach us something we both don't know, we would both apply it and actively learn it in very different ways.
That's yeah, absolutely true. And so taking that same analogy, right? So we both have backgrounds in logistics and supply chain, but those are very different experiences too. So how we would approach a certain situation may be I'll say even
Wildly
wildly
different.
different based on certain
Yes.
circumstances, right?
We could probably have someone, say a circumstance right now, of like, what do you do when the driver doesn't show up for delivery? Or, there's certain like where did my whole 18 wheeler full of new Nintendo Switch 3s come go? Like where did they go? Okay, the driver decided to take them home with him and sell them in the black market. Okay, what do we do?
Yeah. Now what? Yeah. You gotta right, and you have to be able to plan and adapt for those kind of things. And I think that's one really powerful thing that especially that gamers would have is that adaptability, right?
Mm,
To be able to change because that's what happens in the games all the time. Like there's always obstacles, whether it's enemies, puzzles, just crap getting thrown at you, and
mhm.
you have to dodge, you have to fight, you have to go around it, whatever it is. You have to be highly adaptable for that. And in supply chain, I feel like that was always constant when I was working at the company. It was like, uh, I know the analogy I think from the business terms is like you're always putting out fires, right? It's always something. So
Yes,
so you have to like run
always
around and make
something.
sure that okay that whether like you said like if the driver didn't show up or somebody stole the thing or just or
That
whether the
doesn't happen
FedEx
as
just
often.
lost it and you're like oh what so
Yeah, he's in North Dakota, but you're supposed to be in Florida. What's going on here?
yeah,
You know?
exactly. So I guess what sort of circumstances has that have you noticed that and how has that helped as far as being adaptable in both logistics, supply chain, as well as gaming?
Adaptability is something that I grew up having to do and be forced to do. It kind of goes down to how you were raised almost, of like, are you adaptable to going to interact with other families and how they do things or how they grew up or friendships how those are formed, the adaptability of like um being able to meet someone where they're at. That is the huge thing of meeting someone where they're at. Okay, let's analyze this current situation and then where do we want to go, and then the adaptability along the way is a wild ride. You have to be able to go to different worlds and environments and adapt your same so like there's different worlds and different types of games and different environments. Those environments you have to go and apply the strategy that you were using that was working and apply it to a different environment. That is where the gaming kind of connects in that aspect, is the adaptability of being able to use your same skills in all situations, but also have a giant toolbox that you can adapt and add tools that you need from the toolbox necessary. And that is how I would marry adaptability in gaming and
That's fantastic.
logistics and
Yeah,
logistics. So
that's amazing. So it really is the and I like that the idea of the sense of like kind of tools in your toolbox to say like whatever you're developing, whatever your skills that you've learned, you can take that with you to other,
absolutely.
whether it's other game worlds, right? And so very simple in a game where it's like, all right, well, you moved on to the next stage, you're in a different
Hmm.
world. You
Hmm.
take what you've learned
Hmm.
and now you can apply it and maybe something's a little bit harder, a little bit different,
Hmm.
but you've built the skills so now you can adapt to that situation. I
Yeah.
think it works, pulling it back even a little bit more just to like games in general, right? If
Hmm.
you're playing multiple games, if all of us have played, more than one game, but taking the same skill to be like, all right, well, I play like a shooter, like an FPS game, and I
Hmm.
go select Halo, and I go to a different FPS game, you'd say like Call of Duty or something.
Hmm.
Maybe some of the buttons are a little bit different, maybe something handles slightly different, but like the gameplay is mostly similar.
Hmm.
So you can kind of quickly adapt to the change in circumstances as a result.
Absolutely. And if we go back to the logistics example of stealing a dry van trailer worth of Nintendo Switch 3s that were supposed to go to Best Buy, that didn't make it to Best Buy, if we have the knowledge to troubleshoot that situation and work through that problem, the next time a situation comes up, you're like, oh no, I know what this is about, and you're like, I've done this before. I know what you're
Hmm.
trying to do here. And so it is like in different games, like where you're fooled or duped by someone, or you learned a hard lesson by making a mistake. Like, guess what? When you go to your next game or your next, if it's a different game or the same game, you're going to be like, hey, I know that problem. I got
Yep.
it. I'm going to do a different strategy to solve it this time, and then I will eventually get it correct.
Gosh, yep. So just being able to anticipate based on those prior experiences that you've
Mhm.
had. So similar both in games and in logistics, supply chain. So
Adaptability is the biggest one. I'm so glad you brought that up.
awesome. Yeah, because I think gamers are highly adaptive. So that's one of those things, for those listening, I think using that skill of adaptability, how you can change and progress through a game, using that in other contexts, right? So supply chain, I think, is a great one for gamers. That's why yeah, I'll say my personal experience too, working in supply chain, is that it was never that hard, right? It's in terms of like when people talk about how certain jobs are and like certain aspects of a company, supply chain had always, at least at our company, always had that kind of reputation where it is like everything's on fire, so it must be stressful all the time because everything's different. Like no 2 days are the same in
Exactly.
in
You said
logistics and
it.
supply chain. Yep. So having that experience, I know you know too. So and in, at least my personal experience was that it wasn't that hard though. It was like,
It
yes, every
wasn't
day is different.
it wasn't like a unsolvable math problem. It was, yeah, you had to go to math class every day and you probably are learning something new every day, but it wasn't an unsolvable problem. And then when you solve the problem, you're like, oh, heck yeah, I got this. This is so easy. And you're right. Like, yes, everything is on fire, but that's the chaos that I'm always addicted to. And as a gamer, I would imagine that's the same. Like, who wants to do the same steps every day, the same way, all the time? Like,
Yeah.
nobody. And you probably want to switch up your games. You probably want to switch up your character or your guns or your anything like that. Like, and so, and actually, now that I think about it, I have people that come to me all the time and they're like, okay, they think it's a get rich quick scheme. And I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I need you to understand that this is a skill growth uh, program that is customizable to your career growth. Like you literally leave my program and are able to get a corporate job with a salary and commission or start your own business. You choose. And so and both of them are from home, by the way, and so there's a lot of things that attract people in theory to come on board and inquire about this. But what is very different and what I'm cautious about as an entrepreneur is people's adaptability and their motivation to learn a skill set. And when you do start a new game and you don't know what it's about, you do automatically give yourself time to learn automatically.
Yep.
And so you give yourself grace to make mistakes. You give yourself time to learn different skills and strategies, add strategies, take away strategies. All of those things are the same. So ideally, and this is why I'm laughing, is because ideally, hopefully, everyone who's listening would love to explore this career because gamers are so logical and adaptable. Like, please come on, because I have taught everyone from no computer literacy to, top-notch tech people. And I just want to say there's a space for everyone.
That's fantastic. Yep. And I think you're right. I think it's the gamer in me says that, supply chain was fun because it was always different and challenging in those ways, right? So, and you brought up a great analogy, right? You don't want to take the same steps. You don't want to, I'll say you don't want to play the same level in a
Yeah,
game
that's a
over and
good
over and
one.
over again,
Yeah.
right? You did, and a lot of the times we play different games as a result, right? Because yeah, I'm definitely one of those people. I've played many a game over my years, just because I mean, there's certain games that I love that I'll
Of
I'll come back
course.
to or that I'll play thousands of hours.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even in those games where you play, especially like an MMO or something, every day is different there too, right? You're always changing and growing, getting better, and then the new content drops to do this. So
That's the
every
addiction part of it. Like, yeah, not in a bad way, but
right,
not saying addiction in a bad way, but like that's the crave for it.
right. That's and to get you to continually keep you engaged in it, right? To have that variety and that change so that you can have these new and varied experiences. That's one of the things that we all love about gaming is just all the different experiences you can have. So I think
Yes.
supply chain works great for that because that was one of those things where the work itself, I mean, depending on the job and who you work with and your boss and all this, there's all these other or office politics. It's always something that you have to kind of work around, right? Unfortunately, but at least the work itself, like supply chain, was just it was challenging in the way that like a game was challenging. It was like you gotta beat the boss, you gotta beat the level, and how are you gonna work around it? And every time you get to a new level, a new boss, the solution was always different.
Hmm.
And so
And how
no
you
2 days are the
approach
same.
it,
Yeah.
how you decide to approach any scenario where it's like, okay, it's showtime. These zombies just showed up. I've got to use my strategy. And we talked a little bit before this episode about how execution, taking action, and gaming really does put you on that spot. And it says, all right, what is your strategy? You got to use it now.
Yeah.
And so, and oh, I'm going to throw something different at you you've never seen before. How are you going to strategize on the spot and attack it? So, take action, as you said. And I just love that. And I think there's a lot of coexisting similarities in gaming and logistics because I don't leave this computer till like 6 o'clock this afternoon, and so and sometimes my eyes are just burning, when you just sit there and close your eyes for a second, they just
Yeah.
sting a little and you're
Yep.
like, oh great. Luckily my Mac desktop has a dark nighttime mode. It takes away the blue light, and so I'm
There you
like,
go.
oh gosh, and it's a struggle. But I get it. Thousands of hours investing in strategization is what I do for a living. And I don't stop until I figure it out. I don't stop till we have the right plan. I don't stop tweaking things and making them better until it works for that person or that company. And it's something that you have to be adaptable to. I know we're going to call this adaptability, but
Yep.
um, I love that you brought it up.
No, I think it's such a powerful skill, right, to have as a gamer, and it's so useful just in corporations, business, as an entrepreneur, wherever your career takes you. Being adaptable is very much a needed skill and in demand too.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's very in demand. And that's why if you logical people out there are listening, please contact me because and you asked me, about promoting and I'm not just here to promote. Like I'm here to network with you as someone who has a supply chain background. I'm here to talk about what I do to hopefully make a difference at somebody's life that wants to work from home. But is that applicable for everyone listening? No, check yourself and make sure that this is something you want to explore. Do some homework, do some research, and go, find some out outside reasoning of why you want to buy this game. What's is the investment in the new FIFA soccer game worth it? Is it going to be, so think about the end result here. Like, what is your satisfaction goal in gaming and in your career?
And that's a great analogy for that too, is that not we all love games, but we don't all even play the same games, right? So this is I like that analogy to say like, having a career in corporate level, logistics or supply chain, you could treat it like a game in a sense, be like, it's not for everyone. Maybe you don't want it. So definitely
Right.
check the reviews, if you will.
Yeah,
Check
if you don't want to
yeah.
be Princess Peach on Mario Kart, you don't have to.
Exactly. So yeah, do you want a career in supply chain? You don't have to. But
Right.
it is
No.
something that is pretty interesting for and so for those that are interested, I guess where can we learn more?
Absolutely. Find me on LinkedIn with my name, Hannah Gambe. I'm also Hannah Logic on Facebook group where Daniel and I actually connected.
Mhm.
Facebook is chaotic. It is,
Yep.
there's just so many people. I work globally as well, which is very exciting. I just did a podcast as well on a Bulgarian manufacturer,
Oh, okay.
machinery manufacturer, and sat down and talked to him. And we had been networking for over a year. And I love global connections. And so it is very clogged, but LinkedIn or, I can get some links to Daniel for him to be able to click and get you right there.
Yep,
I also
absolutely. Yeah,
get
we'll
my
so
email.
yeah, we'll definitely do that, and we'll have the links for you guys in the description, so you can
Yeah, and I even give
check
out
out
my cell
Hannah.
number because
Yeah,
I like to make this personable. Like I said, the people I've been working with have been for years. I still connect with them to this day. And so it's really important that this is, if you're investing in a career shift or you're trying to enhance a career, that is super serious and you need to be able to contact me. And I don't take that lightly.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for being here and just and sharing that kind of that connection and I think the topic of the day of adaptability and how amazing we are as gamers being highly
Yes.
adaptable.
And now I realize how perfect this community would be for this. Like it's all clicking now.
Yeah,
And before
exactly.
I was like, how are we gonna, what
How,
a,
how's it?
uh,
But
and
oh, it
it
works so well.
worked beautifully.
Yep.
Beautiful.
So guys, definitely check out Hannah, and we'll have the links for you guys if you're interested in a career and looking into corporate leadership into
Yes.
logistics, supply chain,
Corporate or entrepreneurial
or an
side
entrepreneur. That's right.
and everything in between.
And you said even just like working from home, like working remote too. So you can do it from the comfort
Yes.
of your computer. So once you're done, you just click,
Mhm.
open your folder, open Steam, and start playing games.
And after the years of networking, as you can imagine, being vulnerable enough to come on a gaming podcast and talk about my business, but also talk about the logical side of real career options is super important. But it's more valuable because both of us we're all trying to survive and provide food for our family and pay for new games and
Yep,
cool upgrades
exactly.
and so we're all here obviously not for free, and so I think that is something that we have to look at investment wise, but also the return investment of leaving a program or leaving a game and being able to apply that in real life and go in to land that corporate job or to your own business and do things the way you want to do it on your time and your terms. There's a lot of everything in between, and I believe everyone out there definitely has more skill than you know in logistics.
I think so too. So very cool. So guys, definitely check out Hannah. And before you go, Hannah, I do have one final question for you
Mhm.
that I ask everyone, which is, what is your favorite video game?
Hands down, Mario Kart. I know that sounds cliche, but listen, I am the reigning champion in the new Mario Kart and the old one. So
Nice.
I would like to just say, my husband, if he was in the room, he would be yelling across the room right now, but he is not here. But I am the reigning champion of Mario Kart. I do use Toad as my character, and I know that is cliche and silly because we all probably had our foundation in Mario Kart, but that is definitely my go-to game. You can never get old or sick of it, and that's my go-to for sure.
I love that. No, that's a great pick. So Mario Kart, awesome. Well, guys, yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Hannah, for being here. And everybody, I hope you definitely check her out and think more on logistics and supply chain. That's definitely the background I came from too. So near and dear to my heart too. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, guys, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.